Hi, my name is Herbie Anderson, and I'm an instructor here at the Aveda Institute, Chapel Hill. Not only am I an instructor here, I'm also a former student of the Aveda Institute, Chapel Hill. Before coming here, I actually went to barber school. That's kind of what I wanted to share today. With just everything that's going on, I wanted to share the importance of how the barbering world, particularly for me as an African American, growing up in the barbershop, and just the importance and just how much of a staple it was in the African American community. I know for me, it just inspired me in so many ways, but also too just remember the men that spoke into my life. It shared so many things. I mean, you could go to the barbershop not only for laughs, but to be able to have that freedom to discuss things that sometimes weren't necessarily things that you would feel comfortable talking about in other settings outside of the African American community. And so that's what the barbershop was for me and for so many. Like I said, a place where you could, even though we didn't have hair to let down, right? It was being taken off, but you kind of, so to speak, let your hair down. You could just be yourself.
At Aveda, we're passionate about wellness. A trip to the salon or spa leaves you feeling refreshed and confident. But nowhere is community more central to that experience than at the African American barbershop. We sat down with Chevez Moman, barber and mental health advocate, to further understand the significance of the barbershop in the Black community.
My name is Chevez Moman. I'm a barber, and I'm the owner of the Barber Zone Barber Studio LLC. But I work out of Groove's Barbershop. Far as the barbering in the community, it's the cornerstone of the neighborhood. It's where information is passed along through the community in ways that you don't in any other industry or any other community. If you want to know what's going on in the Black community, you go to the barbershop. And it's a place where, we raise our sons and we talk about sports, politics, family. It's like, well, basically it's the Black Man's Country Club. If you know about Cheers, the show Cheers, that's what the Black barbershop is. You walk in the barbershop and you're like, hey, because that's somewhere, if you stay in your community from the time you're born till, you get married or whatever, that's someplace that you've been all your life. You start when you're going to two. Then, you're there in high school as a teenager. Then you're there when you graduate from high school, you graduate from college, then you get a family. Then you bring your son. And then that happens constantly. Like I have 4 generations that I cut. So I've cut the great-grandfather, the grandfather, the son, and now his son. So I don't know any other place where you can get that but in the Black barbershop. First of all, it's probably one of the only organic places where African American males can be communal, because as historically, African people are a community-based people. So when we find somewhere where we can go and feel comfortable and just, be us, that's where the barbershop is. You go in the barbershop and it doesn't matter your title, your race, your economic status, your social economic status, whatever it is. When you come in the barbershop, you're just John Doe. All your title and everything strips out until you walk back out the door. You don't have to live up to any standards or any of the things that are that hold Black men up. You can just be yourself. The barber is the young man's first relationship outside of his family where he can call somebody by their first name. The barbershop is the only place where a young man can call an adult that is not a family member by their first name. The barber is the first one that gives a young man responsibility. What's your first responsibility at 2 years old? Is paying for your haircut. Here goes your money. Here, pay your barber. So yeah, and that's where relationships and development of young men start, is right there in the barber chair. Seeing somebody come in and not the best mood, and from my haircut, that changes their day and it changes their life. And just that smile that they get is enough for me. And that keeps me going, because sometimes, as we know, barbers and stylists, we may not have the best day in the morning, But being able to bless somebody with my God-given talent is what keeps me going and what keeps me pushing. That's something that I've been working on the past few years is raising awareness about mental health in African-American communities. And the barbershop is the best place to do it because that's where we have, open, honest, and organic conversations. So yes, that is part of mental health. A friend of mine came to me and a couple other barbers and asked if we would do a forum where we would cut hair and we would talk to young men about mental health. Normally, young ladies have more outlets when they have problems than young men do. Young men are always told to toughen up and men don't cry and, all the things they tell us, hold it in, suck it in, don't do this, don't do that. But the same trauma that we face, young ladies face, and they can cry, they can let it out. So Tiffany said, can we do something because I want an outlet for my son also. So we did a conversation. We did that with the young men and we talked to them, we cut hair, and then we had real honest conversations with them. And we developed what we call barbershop talk, where we brought African-American males and we partnered it up with healthcare organizations. I did it back in 2014 where I partnered it up with a doctor by the name of Mark White. And we were talking about men opening up and talking about mental health. We came up with the idea. I said, hey, Doc, what if I bring up a conversation and I invite you to the shop and we start having a conversation and then, I don't tell the guys that you're there and then you jump in and tell us how we would handle it on the professional side. And it went so well that I just told the rest of my buddies, like, hey, we got to start doing this. As a African-American male who that was done to, suck it up, real men don't cry type thing. It feels great to be able to have the generations below me and the ones above me to be able to finally open up and let some of this stuff off their chest. Because what happens is men, we're like tea kettles. You keep pouring so much stuff in us. You wake up in the morning, you got your family, you got your kids, you got your job, you got everything on your shoulders all day. You keep pouring that hot water in it. At some time, that tea kettle's going, and what happens with men, that comes out as violent language, violent actions. And instead of, because we've never been taught coping skills as a man. What do? We go have a drink or we go hit a ball or we go to hit something to let some pressure off. But we've never been taught to open up and talk about what's hurting us. So being able to do that, it feels good to be able to be a healer for my community. We're actually partnering, and we've partnered with Ohio State University, and we're giving real information to men about mental health and mental wellness because that's the place where we go and open up. Speaking about mental health in the African-American community is taboo. It's like, don't say that. We've been conditioned to keep things internally because we don't want to ruffle the feathers of anybody else and we don't want to be considered the one that's crazy. But we're now letting men know that it's okay to not be okay. But yeah, mental health in the barber and beauty industry is vital. So we can make people look good and feel good, but we also need to give them some outlets.